In a landmark election for New York City, Zohran Mamdani was elected the city's 111th mayor, making history in several ways. At just 34, he becomes the youngest person to assume the office in decades and the first Muslim and first South Asian mayor of the city. His victory marks a dramatic shift in the political landscape of America's largest city, signaling changing demographics and priorities. The win reflects deep support for his progressive agenda and a strong desire among voters for change. For many New Yorkers, it's both a symbolic and practical moment of transformation. Mamdani's campaign emphasized affordability, housing, and worker rights, issues that resonated with a city grappling with soaring rents, transit costs, and income inequality. He pledged a rent freeze on rent-stabilized units, a $30 minimum wage by 2030, free bus transit, and expanding affordable housing. His message struck a chord with younger voters, working families, and those feeling left behind by decades of rising cost of living in the city. By focusing on these economic concerns rather than traditional law and order narratives, Mamdani positioned himself as a candidate of the city's future rather than its past. The general election saw Mamdani secure slightly over 50% of the vote, defeating both former Governor Andrew Cuomo, running as an independent, and Republican candidate Curtis Sliwa. His margin of victory, while not a landslide in raw numbers, was enough to demonstrate a clear mandate. The election also featured the highest voter turnout in a NYC mayoral race in decades, signaling that many New Yorkers felt the stakes were higher and the opportunity for change real. Mamdani's win didn't just reflect campaign strategy, it reflected momentum and a demand for a new kind of leadership. Mamdani's victory is significant beyond the city. It sends a message about the evolving nature of urban politics in America and the increasing influence of progressive platforms. His success shows that candidates who champion issues like housing affordability, public transit reform, and wealth redistribution can win in major metropolitan centers. The result may inspire similar campaigns in other cities and shape how the Democratic Party approaches local and national elections. It also reopens debates about establishment versus outsider politics, the role of young voters, and how identity and policy interact in electoral success. The win is also historic for New York's Muslim and South Asian communities. Mamdani's identity breaks long-standing barriers in the city's political structure, offering representation to communities long underserved or underrepresented in city leadership. For many of these voters, his victory is both a symbol and a source of momentum, showing that the highest offices in New York are accessible. This could encourage greater civic engagement among young adults of diverse backgrounds and reshape civic expectations for who city leadership can represent. But ambitious promises bring big challenges. Mamdani's proposed policies will require significant funding and negotiation with state officials, business interests, and municipal agencies. Implementing a rent freeze, raising wages, and offering fare free public transit will test the city's fiscal and administrative capacities. He will have to manage not only budgets but also relationships with the city's powerful real estate, labor, and transit stakeholders. The real test will be translating campaign rhetoric into governance, and doing so without destabilizing city finances or alienating key constituencies. His victory also underscores a generational shift. At 34, Mamdani brings a different perspective to city government, one less rooted in traditional political machines and more attuned to grassroots organizing, digital campaigning, and younger voter priorities. His approach contrasts with older power structures and veteran politicians who dominated New York politics for decades. His success reflects changing expectations among voters about transparency, urgency, progressive reform, and responsiveness to younger generations' concerns. The city may now face a new era of leadership style and political culture. The election exposed tensions within the Democratic Party itself. Mamdani's win over Cuomo in the primary, and then the general election victory, highlighted the divide between more moderate, establishment-oriented Democrats and the party's progressive wing. The success of a candidate branded a Democratic Socialist by opponents indicates that progressive ideas have traction in urban America. Some party leaders view the result as a blueprint for the future, while others worry it alienates centrist voters. Regardless, The outcome demands that the party re-examine its strategies, priorities, and voter base. Business and financial sectors in New York watch the result closely and with a mixture of concern and anticipation. Real estate developers, landlords, and high-income interests may worry about tax increases, tougher regulations, and policy shifts under Mamdani's agenda. At the same time, his victory invites new investment in affordable housing, green infrastructure, and transit, areas often overlooked. The relationship between city government and the private sector may need realignment. How Mamdani manages these relationships, whether through collaboration or confrontation, will be central to his success. Mamdani inherits a city with complex problems: public safety, homelessness, transit delays, budget deficits, and social inequities. Addressing these will require more than bold promises. It will require coalition building, compromise, and tactical governance. His platform emphasized new models, free services, housing expansion, wage growth, but translating them into operational reality demands careful planning. The city's deep bureaucratic structures, historical inertia, and competing stakeholder interests will test Mamdani's ability to deliver. The honeymoon period will be short. New Yorkers will expect visible progress or risk disillusionment. Critics argue that Mamdani's lack of executive experience could hinder his effectiveness. Transitioning from a state assembly role to running America's largest city is a massive leap. Opponents warn that ambitious promises without detailed implementation plans may raise expectations that cannot be met. Some moderate Democrats and Republicans warn of fiscal overreach, unintended consequences, and policy volatility. These critiques highlight the tension between visionary campaigning and pragmatic governance. Mamdani will need to quickly build a credible leadership team and implement transparent timelines to gain trust beyond his base. One bold element of Mamdani's platform is the idea of progressive taxation, increasing taxes on the wealthy to fund social services and affordability initiatives. This marks a clear departure from recent New York City tax policy. It reflects a shift in political calculus. Resources for change must come from new revenue streams. But securing supermajorities for tax changes in the city council and managing backlash from affluent constituencies will be tough. Success depends on crafting policies that balance fairness with fiscal stability and convincing the electorate that higher contributions from the top can yield broader benefits. Mamdani's campaign also harnessed modern political tools: small-dollar donations, strong social media outreach, and a coalition of grassroots volunteers. This strategy speaks to a new era of campaigning in city politics, one less reliant on big donors and more on engaged citizens. His victory suggests that in major cities, well-organized grassroots movements can counter established financial support. It signals that future campaigns will emphasize mobilization, digital communication, and local engagement. For budding politicians, Mamdani's path may become a model for urban progressive campaigns. New York's electorate played a crucial role. High turnout, especially among younger voters, minorities, and first-time participants, underpinned Mamdani's victory. His ability to galvanize voters who previously felt ignored or disconnected helped tip the balance. The fact that 4 of the 5 boroughs went for him, losing only in Staten Island, shows broad geographic appeal in a fragmented city. This coalition of working-class, young, and immigrant communities highlights how shifting demographics are changing urban elections. For him to govern effectively, he'll need to sustain this coalition beyond campaign day. Internationally, the result is also being watched. A city as iconic as New York electing a young, Muslim, progressive leader matters beyond U.S. politics. It signals possibilities for representation, diversity, and progressive policy in major global metropolitan centers. It may inspire similar movements in other cities and countries. Mamdani's win invites conversations about race, religion, identity, and power in urban governance. It sends a message. Major cities are embracing change and broader representation. How he executes his term will influence both local and global perceptions of progressive urban leadership. Looking ahead, the transition team and early policy rollout will shape how Mamdani is perceived. His first 100 days in office will be especially scrutinized. He must prioritize achievable wins, perhaps fare-free buses, targeted rent stabilization, or affordable housing commitments to prove his platform is deliverable. Simultaneously, managing budget constraints, ensuring public safety, and maintaining economic stability will be key. If he fails to show progress soon, opposition momentum may grow. The challenge is balancing visionary change with practical governance. For New Yorkers themselves, this election offers hope and anxiety in equal measure. Supporters believe a mayor with their experiences, priorities, and identity is coming into office, someone who understands the struggle of everyday life in the city. But skeptics worry, will the change they voted for be sustainable, or will it fade amid compromise and institutional resistance? Residents will watch closely how Mamdani addresses pressing issues like housing, transit, public safety, and inequality. If he succeeds, the city could chart a new course. If he stumbles, disappointment could set in quickly. In conclusion, Zohran Mamdani's historic victory is more than a campaign win. It is a potential turning point for New York City, urban politics, and progressive activism. His ascent reflects changing demographics, a rise of grassroots politics, and demand for bold solutions. As he prepares to take office, the real work begins, converting promises into policy, building coalitions, and managing the complexities of the city. How he governs will matter not just for New Yorkers, but for cities everywhere. The future has arrived. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe the channel The Secured Life.